Let's talk about leadership real quick. So I have no doubt there would have been a different Tom when you first went into it to then when you left. So if you have any, what would be some of the lessons of leadership that you've learned over your career?
Yeah. So I always pause before I give lessons because my first lesson is not to try and emulate anyone too closely. So like everything I'm about to say should definitely be taken with a lens of how does this apply to me, myself, my authentic self and my behaviors, because that's kind of where I went wrong, I think. When I first started, it wasn't a problem. So I got given the captaincy. Definitely didn't think I was the person to do it at the time. Felt like I was too young, inexperienced, didn't really know what I was doing. Just focused on playing the game as best I could and, try not to sound silly in the team talks. That was kind of the extent of it when I started, and it ran pretty smooth. But then I was like, right, I've got to try and take my leadership to the next level because that's what everyone says you're supposed to be. I also wanted to be probably deep down the best leader that any of the team had ever had. So that was still there. And it was when I started to work on it, it became tricky because I was like, well, people say that this person's a good leader because they're like this. And it wasn't like I was exactly trying to be like someone else, but you try to adopt behaviors. I didn't really understand how certain people were saying you need to be more this or more that. And I was like, okay, yeah, I do. But I didn't really know how to do that. I didn't know how to be a bit of a throwback reference, but like Martin Johnson is a leader for England Rugby that people talk about. Like, I don't know Martin Johnson very well, but I'm pretty sure we're very different people. So what was the point of me trying to be him? It took me a long, long time to figure out that it was okay for your super strength as a leader of a rugby team to be compassion, because most people said it had to be that you're going to make people, run through brick walls. Like, yeah, that's a cool skill to have. That's great. But if I didn't possess that, that's okay. It's also really cool to make people feel like you really care about them. And that might get the best out of them as well. But it took me quite a long time to kind of figure that out. And again, it's an uncomfortable, sticky process. There was a lot of self-doubt wrapped up in that as well. Uh, um, I remember there was a meeting we had. We were in Hong Kong before the Hong Kong Sevens, which was one of the biggest ones. And this is 2015. We had quite a young group out there actually. We were rotating the squad a little bit. And I was desperate, as I said, like compassion. I was very democratic as a leader. I wanted to hear from everyone, give everyone a chance to raise their voice and to say what they wanted to say. We were having this goal-setting meeting before the tournament. We're in a hotel room. And it had been going on for about an hour. And you can imagine like young 20-something-year-old lads after an hour, like they're fully done. They just want to go to dinner. They want to go and play some table tennis or something. And I'm there like thinking, okay, everyone's had a say. I don't really know how to bring it to a close. I didn't really know what we need to land on as goal. I was like a little bit lost. And I was kind of, some people saying one thing, some people saying another thing. And what I probably should have done is jumped and said, right, hands up who thinks we'll go with this, and then go with the majority, and just made a call. But I was so desperate to like give everyone the chance and not like jump over anyone and not tell anyone too much what to do. I didn't want to be too dictatorial, maybe because I'd had some bad experiences with leadership. But then one of the coaches ended up coming in and closing it off for me, and I just felt so worthless, felt so empty. And he was trying to help me out, like he was trying to do the best thing, but I felt like he just like cut my legs off in front of everyone. And that was a massive learning experience. I'm so glad it happened, because the biggest lesson I took away from that, come back to your question, is that you can afford to make mistakes in the leader. Like, it is okay. In the same way as we talk all the time with athletes and the decision making in game, it's okay to go down the track to a spinner and try and knock him back over his head for six if you think that's the right thing to do. If you get out, we'll unpick it afterwards and work out whether it was your technique, whether it was maybe the wrong ball to go for, the wrong context in the game. We'll work that out afterwards, but life will go on and you'll still be loved afterwards. I found that okay. I could understand that as an individual player. Like if I did a bad pass, I moved on. Like it didn't sit with me too much. But as a leader, there was something I felt about the consequences of whatever I did as a leader that felt more powerful. Because in some ways they are. Your job is to try and impact other people around you for the better. And I was so fearful of getting that wrong. So fearful of it impacting people in a way that wasn't useful for them. So I was passive for a lot of the time, like too scared to actually do anything. which in that meeting was a kind of case in point. So it was a brilliant lesson in that, like, go for stuff, like go with your gut, make a call. You can always make a mistake and learn from it, even when it comes to leadership and working with people. And kind of linked to that one is it's also a really useful thing to be open to your mistakes as a leader in front of your group. So some of the most powerful moments and the moments that moved me forward and dare say the team forward, where I sort of was like, I don't want to swear on the pod. I was about to swear on the podcast then, but lads,
Can, mate,
like,
go for it.
yeah, lads, like I messed up. I got that wrong. I'm sorry. At the time, my gut was telling me this, and I went with it. And that's on me. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to try and learn from that. And I'm pretty sure, like, everyone's going to be like, yeah, no problem. It's going to be like, and if anyone doesn't, if anyone still holds that against you, that's on them.
Mm.
I think it's a sort of, again, these are all linked, but a final one I would put is, if your intentions are in a good place, then it makes the mistakes much easier. So as long as you've understood who you are as a person and who you're trying to be as a captain, largely based around your values and what you think is important, if you're guided by that when you're going into a situation, very hard to ever regret your actions. So I think that's a useful one to spend some time figuring out, like, actually what is important to me, and go with that. So what would be an example of that, just to make it kind of real for people? Like some of the lads for the England Rugby team, I don't know when this is going to go out, but they've just done the squad selection for the Rugby World Cup. And, there would be some stuff around selection that'd be really difficult. So for a coach in that scenario, I'd hope that the coaches would have thought, well, what's important to me as a person, as the leader of this group, and then done the selection accordingly. It doesn't mean that the people you're not selecting are going to be happy with your decision, but it means you can do it in a way where you're demonstrating your values, whether that's like respect for other people, kindness, love. You can direct all those things whilst also delivering bad news. Whether the person receiving the bad news recognizes those things in the moment is another matter. I'd say almost certainly they won't, but hopefully down the line they might, and they will, and they'll be able to carry that forward. Does that make sense?
Hey, if you've enjoyed that video, then you can click right here to watch the full unedited version of that episode. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel by clicking the button below. I'll see you soon.